Hi there, this is Datila, and welcome to the TNAIW GoGo Power Rankings show. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First, to my right, the star of the show. He has no relation to Steve Maclin, Burt Maclin.
This week I do wish I was related to him.
I could see why. And then to my left, the godfather of the Power Rankings, Lucha. Like this.
Yeah, that way.
All right. So as you guys know, we had No Surrender this past week, and we actually had the Go Home show to No Surrender on Thursday. So these power rankings should be quite interesting because some people won in the Go Home show, some people lost at No Surrender. So I'm very curious to see who's going to be on this week's power rankings. For sure, I expect to see Josh. I expect to see Steve Maclin. What about you, Bert? Who do you expect to see on this week's power rankings?
As we always say, especially as we saw champions retain, our world champions retain, so I expect to see them top 5 at least. I would hope.
But will Josh winning in the main event be enough to get him over the hump? That is Mickie James always being right there over him.
We shall see. Bert, before we get into the power rankings, do you want to tell us how to join the Power Rankings committee?
All you have to do is just message me on Twitter at Burt Maclin 11 and just ask to join the rankings. If you're an Impact fan, you can get out a quick top 10 every week. That's all it takes. So Burt Maclin 11 on Twitter.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's play these Power Rankings.
Number 10, Kushida and Motor City, Time Machine. Number 9, Frankie Kazarian. Number 8, Digital Media Champion Joe Hendry. Number 7, Rich Swann. Number 6, Tag Team Champions The Death Dolls. Number 5, Austin, Bay, Kenta Bullet Club. Number 4, number 1 contender Steve Maclin. Number 3, X Division Champion Trey Miguel. Number 2, World Champion Mickie James. And number 1, World Champion Josh Alexander.
Wow, I have to say, very interesting power ranking list here. Very interesting because, wow. Okay, let's start with number 10, Kushida and Motor City Machine Guns. At number 10, Time Machine. So, first of all, didn't Time Machine lose to Bullet Club at No Surrender, yet they made the power rankings?
Because Kushida beat Chris Bay on Impact leading in to No Surrender.
Yes, I'm aware of that. He got the victory. He gave them more momentum. So see how we've said how like you could win at the Go Home show, but then lose at No Surrender?
Look at you bringing up points.
Well, I was gonna say, looking at the rankings, if you're upset about someone losing and being on them, I have a feeling you might be upset a few more times. That's all I'm gonna say.
Go ahead, Bert.
Oh no, that's all I was gonna say real quick.
Like I said on the big show the other day with Jeff, y'all go check that out if you didn't. You can look at this power ranking and you can tell for sure that this was after a pay-per-view because this looks so like hard reset and like I think we got all the champions here. All the champions and number 1 contenders in proper order. So
yeah, it's like I said last week, it's real chalk. You know what I'm saying? You see like the blue bloods, you know what I'm saying, the champ, you know what I mean? But yeah, as far as Time Machine being number 10 and losing, it's one of those times where you can get over with a loss just as much as you can get over with a win. You know what I mean? In wrestling, you see it all the time. And like Time Machine looked great in the match, so I'm fine with them being number 10.
Same. They were fantastic. I mean, that was probably one of my favorite matches of the night.
And at the end of the day, they're still the tag team champions as far as the Motor City Machine goes.
No, that's true, Lucha. They are still tag team champions. For now, anyways. All right, number 9, Frankie Kazarian getting a huge win over Khan at No Surrender. Of course, there's an asterisk on that win, though. There's an asterisk because Sami Callihan inadvertently inadvertently hit Khan with the steel chair. But I have to say, I have to give credit to Impact because they built Khan like a monster. I mean, he looked really good in that match. If it wasn't for that chair shot, I honestly think Khan would have won. But who wants to go first, Burt or Lucha?
Lucha, you can take it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Frankie coming in number 9. He's just been, because he hasn't really had that much of a presence on the power rankings. He's been in and out, since his return. So like him being number 9 over the tag team champions. Yeah, they lost, but they're still the tag team champions at the end of the day. So for Frankie to be over someone who carries gold, that's crazy to me. The people, the committee must have really been impressed by that victory over Big Khan, with it having an asterisk over it.
Yeah. And first of all, I think that was a total accident. I don't think Sami Callihan meant to do that at all. I didn't see anything. That wasn't above board. Wasn't above board. So, and then as far as Kazarian being number 9, he did get a big win on a big stage. So, like, you know what I mean? Whether he got help or not, number 9, I think, is a good spot for him this week.
Against Big Khan, though, like, no offense, but Big Khan, was anybody in the design even ranked last week?
I'm not sure. I don't remember that.
Because I would honestly much rather like Giselle Shaw in this position. Like, she got a quality win at the pay-per-view here. So I would have most definitely thought she would have been somewhere on this ranking. She had to be like number 11.
Yeah, she beat a former Knockouts champion, so you would think she would be on the list. So
I have more to say about that, but I'm going to save it towards the end once we get through the power rankings. I have a little something to say about that.
No, John Gresham either. No love for the pre-show.
That's what I was going to say, but I was going to say that to the very end, at the end of the power rankings. We can talk about that.
Great minds think alike.
Touché. All right. Number 8, our digital media champion, I believe in Joe Hendry. He had one. These .combat matches have been freaking amazing. I've been a big fan of the .combat matches. Oh my god. I gotta know, where the hell did the crew find a Dreamcast? A Sega Dreamcast? Where the hell did they find that?
You hold on to it.
Existed.
You hold on to those because that is one of the best. It's underrated. They had what was the fighting game? It had Capcom versus Marvel on that console. So I'm upset it got broken. But Lucha, what do you have to say? Yeah,
Lucha still has his Sega. He just pulled the Joe Hendry right now.
I had to check to see if it was still in my closet. Because I was like, oh shit, they came and robbed me.
Yeah, had so many great Soul Calibur. God, the Dreamcast is so underrated. But that's enough about that. We can't talk about. We're not here to talk about that, even though it is great.
I mean, that spot with Joe Henry though, when Moose flipped him off and Joe Henry just opened.
That match borderline a little comic. Well, the spot where he got the tiny remote control car. It kind of lost me. But what brought me back in that match was when he put the VR set on Moose. And what would have put it even more over the top is if they would have went to like a VR sequence with them fighting. But anytime we get dancing Moose, you know what I mean? And I think that's the new heel gimmick because the fans want to see it. But he's not going to give it to them. You know what I mean? So that was a really fun match for me. It got really fun at the end. And yeah, Joe Hendry being a number 8, totally okay with it.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. Champ got the win. A very good match, might I add. My man, how he Sabu tossed that gaming chair to Moose was crazy. The people believe. The committee believes. And I believe.
I believe too. Do you believe, Burt?
I do.
I believe in 252 pounds of pure motivation. All right. Number 7, Rich Swann. He had a fantastic match against Josh Alexander. he looked good, even though he lost one hell of a match. I think number 7 is well deserved. I mean, he was in the main event.
Can I go first? Because this is the one this is one of the two topics I want to talk about the most.
Sure.
Start it right now, because it happened for me on Impact this past week on Thursday, but the Go Home show, and then I think a little bit on No Surrender in a promo. You saw the seeds being planted. Steve Maclin keeps saying that Rich Swann can't win the big one. Okay, that he keeps coming. I'm sure you keep seeing that. So now Rich Swann being number 7, I'm fine with that. But Rich Swann eventually, because as we saw earlier in the night, Steve Maclin became number 1 contender, and I keep saying that he will be the world. He's gonna beat Josh. I think eventually Rich is gonna be the one to beat Steve Maclin. I think we're gonna see Rich avenge all these losses. I see if Rich getting a win over Josh once he's not champion anymore. I see just Rich getting big win after big win to eventually becoming champion later down the line, because I think he does deserve it. So him being number 7, I think we're going to see him as a fixture in the power rankings going forward.
Let me check just to make sure I got my stuff right. Yeah, I didn't have him in mind at all because he lost the big one again. Sorry. But no, he lost. Actually, this at number 7, this is where I had Kushida and the Machine Guns, kind of sort of based off of their win on Impact and then them losing at No Surrender. I gave them a little more love, a little more weight as champions, I guess. For Rich Swann to have made it over 2 champions, I'm not too fond of that committee decision there, just because I don't believe that he should be ranked higher than 2 champions. It just doesn't.
Well, because you believe in Joe Henry.
I do believe in Joe Henry. So Rich Swann, the committee must really love them some Swann. They gotta have Swann, but I gotta have integrity in my power rankings, and I don't believe Rich Swann should be in number 7. That's just my statement.
If I could ask you real quick, what do you think about my scenario that I built? Do you see him? Well, first, do you see him do you think he'll win the championship again?
I don't think he needs to necessarily.
Okay, well,
I see him winning the X Division belt more so than the World belt, and there's nothing wrong with that. I always look at the X Division belt on some occasions, depending on who's holding it. I look at the X Division belt as like the true number 1 belt in the promotion.
Okay. Yeah, and I think a lot of people agree with you on that. So,
well, you guys all make great points when it comes to Rich Swann. It's hard to argue. All right, number 6, tag team champions, the Death Dolls. So they had a victory over the Hex. And honestly, I was kind of surprised by that, because I thought that the Death Dolls were going to lose the titles to the Hex. But I'm glad that they retained. I feel like the problem with the Death Dolls is that they just don't have anybody. That the Knockouts tag team division is non-existent at this moment. So
and they've beat them all. Like anybody that has been a tag team, they've already beat them.
Yeah, honestly, to be totally honest, in my personal opinion, if Chelsea Green hadn't left, I totally still believe that the Vex probably would have been tag Knockouts champions, and I could have seen the Death Dolls regaining those Knockouts titles on this pay-per-view, because assuming it would have been Vex versus the Death Dolls rivalry or something like that, around those lines.
Well, Death Dolls at number 6. Absolutely, they deserve that spot, because if you look at who's ahead of them, you can make a case why those people are ahead of them. Maybe for 1 or 2, except for maybe exception of 1 or 2 people, but they are the tag team champions. At first, when they retain, I was thinking to myself, where do we go from here? And that shouldn't matter for the rankings at this point, but I think we saw where we go from here on the pre-show. I think Savannah Evans and Giselle Shaw are your next Knockouts tag team champions. I like them as a team. I like what the potential of what they're trying to build with that. Because you saw Savannah Evans run in and kind of help Giselle Shaw get the win. So I think I have no problem with the Death Dolls being number 6 this week.
It's crazy for how much people want to, throw shade at the Knockouts tag team titles or the division itself. When it comes to the committee, at least the committee seems to be more on the side of the Knockouts tag titles than they are the men's tag titles. Yes, I understand Time Machine lost and the Death Dolls won, but still, this is just another case of the Death Dolls being ranked higher on the power rankings than the Motor City Machine Guns being the World Tag Team Champions. Now, is that saying, is it fair for me to even be comparing the two reigns?
I don't think it's fair for you to compare both reigns because the Motor City Machine Guns, they actually, we have a tag team division.
Do we know?
Well, no, actually.
No, keep going. I'll add after you're done.
Well, we have the Bullet Club. We have the Design. We have Crazy Steve and Black Taurus. They could enter the tag team division.
Heath and Rhino, you have
Heath and Rhino.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's a little more depressing is that why the Machine Guns aren't on here is because they actually have a tag team division they could be utilizing, but they don't.
I said this before. The Death Dolls are in the exact same spot that the Good Brothers were when they were tag team champions. When the Good Brothers were tag team champions, there wasn't anybody. There was nobody for them to face. True. And that is they're in the exact same spot right now. There is literally no one. And it's not because Impact pulled the WWE and broke teams apart. It's because they just lost people. They lost Vex. They lost the influence. They lost the inspiration. They lost like 3 teams in the span of a couple months.
Well, like I said, hopefully you have a team being created with Giselle and Savannah. And then maybe Killer Kelly and Taylor Wilder still could be a team. So that's 3 at least. So,
or maybe Tasha makes a return and links up with Deanna. They're both Jersey girls.
And they're both former champs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
World champs.
And tag champs.
Yeah.
That's a good team right there. That's like a heel team that you're supposed to technically, but you're not going to because it's like they're too damn good. Why would you boo a team with that much success?
That's like female beer money.
Yeah, that's true. Well, on Tasha real quick, maybe she comes back with a Bullet Club shirt. I personally hope that would. And I think that's where we go next, if I don't mind.
Who's to say Deanna can't join the boys too?
That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't mind Deanna joining Bullet Club too. That wouldn't be a bad look.
I've been saying that that's a thing that Impact should pull the trigger on.
Number 5, Austin, Bay, and Kenta, the Bullet Club, getting a huge victory over Time Machine. Plus, not to mention Kenta making his Impact debut. Hell of a performance, I might add. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before Chris Bay and Ace Austin become tag team champions. I mean, they were in Chris Bay's hometown of Las Vegas, and the crowd was just cheering for him. So it's only a matter of time before they become tag team champions.
For sure. And I'm glad that they were not only ranked higher than the Machine Guns, but that there was such a far gap between the two to show that there really is some smoke here in this tag division, even though I was just saying that we don't really have that much in here. We got enough smoke to where they're ranked higher than the champs. So it's good to see.
This match is probably my favorite match on the card. And yeah, good. They're so over. I've never seen a team that has been tagging like that short amount of time with that much chemistry as Ace Austin and Bay have. It's just incredible. And then Kenta was so over. Bullet Club it's like they've been a group for like 10 years now and they're still over. You know what I mean? Like that Bullet Club, that logo means something still. Yeah, and I think they will be future tag. It's only a matter of time. And it's sad to say because the Motor City Machine Guns are legends and people should respect them. I have a feeling that when Bullet Club become tag team champions, they're going to be on the rankings a lot more than we've seen the Machine Guns just because of how over Ace and Bay are at this point.
That's fair.
I do agree. Any last remarks on Bullet Club, Lucha? All right. And number 4, our new number 1 contender who will face Josh Alexander at Rebellion, the one and only Steve Maclin. Finally, about time he becomes number 1 contender, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait for Steve Maclin to face Josh Alexander. He is going to be the Stone Cold to Josh Alexander's Bret Hart, or hell, he's going to be the Roman Reigns to Josh Alexander's Sami Zayn. But I think Steve Maclin is going to be the one to take that title off Josh. And what better way to do it? What better way to turn him into a heel than to have Steve Maclin beat Josh in his home country of Canada?
It's just like, damn, like Canada can't have nothing. Because when they were in Montreal, you know, Sammy didn't get his win, and they were all just sitting there. So if Josh loses in Toronto, it's just like they might riot. They really might.
I want to see a riot, okay?
Yeah. Hey, if you like it, I love it.
That's why what's going to happen is he's going to Steve Maclin's going to come in there. He's going to pull a Sean. Scott's going to tell him to do a fast count. Scott's going to screw Josh out. No, I'm just playing it. That's not going to be a screw job. That's not going to happen. But Steve Maclin will become champion. It's inevitable. I don't see how. During this match, as I was watching the number one contender match, I'm thinking to myself, if he doesn't win, who else would you want to see Josh face at this point? And then if Josh beats Steve Maclin, who else is there left for Josh to beat at this point? So I just think Josh has had a good run. It's over 300 days. So, and I think at that point, when he loses, it'll almost be 350 or, close to 350. So that's a good run.
All right. Number 3, X Division champion Trey Miguel, who I must say main evented the Go Home Show 2 No Surrender against Crazy C in the first ever Monsters Ball match for the X Division title. And I have to say, I do agree with Trey Miguel. After when he came on, he cut that promo at No Surrender. How dare they leave him off the card?
Exactly.
How dare they? But I don't think he was so wise as to pick a fight with PCO.
No.
No. He should be higher if he wasn't disrespected by PCO. But let me just say, first of all, I can't wait for hopefully maybe a second Monsters Ball match with Trey Miguel versus PCO. Could you imagine how great that would be? But yes, no, that promo that Trey Miguel cut was money. I can hear dollar signs. Trey Miguel is a future world champion as well. The guy is great as a heel. I am just buying everything he's selling. So I'm happy where he's at.
Those are big words, putting him as a future world champ. I love the kid. He has AJ Styles in the X Division potential. I don't know if he'll crack that and get a world title run unless he goes on like a Rich Swann type run.
I'm not saying it's in the near future, but I'm saying if he sticks in Impact, and he's still young, you know what I'm saying? But he's a guy that you see just rising through the ranks. I see a digital media championship run for him before, you know what I mean? He'd be great with that title,
If he can get another Rascal in, it'll be cool to see him go for the tag titles.
That would always be great as well, too.
My quick thoughts about it. Not only Trey Miguel here, but just the rest of the countdown. It was real world champion heavy, so people kind of took their spot back, their rightful spot in the hierarchy of the championships.
Before we move on from Trey Miguel, just one last thing. He did name drop AJ Styles and Samoa Joe in that promo, saying that if it were them, they would not have been left off the card. So
and that was damn facts.
Yeah.
It's true, and that's what I'm saying. Those names carry weight and impact. Those are big names.
All right, number 2, and still Knockout World Champion Mickie James. She beat Masha Slamovich, and she bit her tongue.
Mm-hmm.
She bit her tongue, but I know she's number 2 because she is a world champion, Knockout World Champion, and she co-main evented this pay-per-view. But could you argue and say there's been an asterisk? Because Mickie James's shoulders were down when she was pinning Masha. Her shoulders were down. So maybe they're setting up a triple threat match here with Mickie James, Masha, and Jordynne Grace.
You go first, Lucha.
Maybe like a funky ladder type stipulation or something of the sort. Her being number 2, it's crazy. I like it. It all makes sense, but also in the same time, I don't know if I don't know. I guess it just depends on the quality of opponent and how you want to look at it. And I guess because who our number one fought to retain his belt, he was a part of this top 10. Masha Slamovich wasn't. So I guess the quality of win wasn't the same. But it's just Mickey has always kind of had her thumb right on Josh as far as his power rankings and always being one step ahead of her. So it's I guess Josh was sick of the bullshit. Maybe it was also because he was in the main event. You think that main event bonus might have kicked in, that bonus that's not really a thing?
That main event first of all, I like how you're breaking down the top 10 like Joe and already breaking down NCAA men's basketball brackets. You know what I mean? Talking strength of schedule, quality wins. I like it. So kudos to you. And Mickey and to your point, that Datila, her getting the win. I think the way she won. I think we talked about this last week. I think we're painting maybe a little picture for her, a slow heel turn. You know what I mean? Her getting these wins, and I don't look at them as cheap wins. I look at them as veteran wins. You know what I mean? That's knowledge of being in the game. She's won championships. She's on a Tom Brady run right now. She's won championships in 3 different decades. The 2000s, the 2010s, and now the 2020s. You know what I'm saying? So she this is like she's on a new level right now. You know what I mean?
I just hate that it's got to be Tom Brady because that's so damn accurate. Ugh.
I'll switch it even more. It's like when you thought Super Saiyan 4 was the highest level. She moved past that. You know what I mean? She moved past Super Saiyan 4.
All right. If it isn't any surprise to anybody, number one, our world
Barry Horowitz.
Josh Alexander regaining his number one spot after Mickey James had topped him a couple of weeks there. But he defeated Rich Swann in the main event of No Surrender. It was a good match. It was one I knew it wasn't going to be an easy fight for Josh. He'd do it all to Rich Swann, but I have no problem with Josh Alexander being a world champion. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is to see how they build his feud with Steve Maclin. Because we have actually, as of Wednesday, we only have about a month before Rebellion. So, very curious to see.
About 6, maybe 8, like 6, 7 weeks.
Yeah, because Sacrifice is I think at the end of March, and then I think Rebellion is in the middle, or is it the beginning? So that's a solid month at least. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, so I'm very curious to see how they built that feud. But who wants to go first?
Damn good win from Josh. Like I mentioned earlier, he got, I guess what gave him the edge to get the number one spot was he had a win over someone who's also in the power rankings at number 7. You know, the quality of win was a little higher. And just the streak continues. I don't know how long it's been since Josh has been number 1. It's been a while. I know that for sure. And that's really all I got. Congratulations to the champ. Back to being number 1 on the program, number 1 in our hearts.
Josh is having one of those runs where you could rank it in the top of Impact World Champions at this point. You know, he's I think that was his 11th title defense, so he just had 12. Or no, that's 11 successful defenses now. That's big time. So it's and look at the people who he's defeated. You know what I mean? They're not nobodies. You know, there's some former world champions in there, a lot of former world champions, and people who've been in the wrestling business a long time. So him being number 1, and it's like we say, after, I don't think he'll be number 1 next week. He'll be in the top 10 as he should be. I think he should be top 5. But when you're world champion, it's not like you're there every week. You know what I mean? They're not going to have you on TV wrestling every week because you don't have to be. You're the champ. You need to make an appearance and do with what you can in the time given. But it is harder when you're the world champ because you're not going to be wrestling as much. Yeah,
it's true, but you do have instead of being a part of the field that's trying to get to the world champ, you got a whole gang of cats trying to get up to you. So you got to keep your foot on them to keep them down so you can stay up. It's harder to keep it. than it is to get it.
And I believe Josh has a match coming up at the Multiverse United show against Kushida, I believe, right? Am I mistaken about that? So that's no easy match right there for him. Kushida's an all-time great. So,
and number 10.
They have a long time to build that match until then. You know what I mean? I definitely expect to hear from Steve Maclin on Thursday's show, as we should hear from him. You know what I mean?
I definitely do think that
he deserves it.
He does. He deserves that spotlight. I cannot wait for him to become Impact World Champion. All right. Well, we've covered the top 10, but I do have a little, I don't want to say rant, but a little complaint. Why the hell weren't Jonathan Gresham and Giselle Shaw on this week's Power Rankings? I mean, what? Just because they were in the countdown to No Surrender, but they don't get a say in the Power Rankings? Like, come on. I mean, Jonathan Gresham, incredible match against Speedball and Mike Bailey. If anybody hasn't seen it, I highly recommend you watch it.
I'm not saying that match wasn't great, but what I'm saying, I thought that finish was rushed to that match a little bit. I thought that match deserves a little more time. I remember throughout the week going into the pay-per-view, a lot of people were talking that maybe that match could be moved in the main card, and maybe I thought Kazarian and Big Con should have been on the pre-show, and Gresham and Bailey, because Gresham and Bailey's feud has been building, as two guys kind of at their peak, kind of wanting to prove who's the best. That's a main, at least that should have opened the show in my eyes, the main show. But yeah, I think that's why Gresham's not on here this week, and it's for Giselle Shaw. I don't know. She did win. So same with Gresham. So, but then again, there's 10 spots. Who would you take out?
Who would I take out? I would probably take out, and no disrespect to Rich Swann, because he did lose. I would take out Rich Swann, and I would also maybe, I don't want to get tomatoes thrown at me but I would probably take out Time Machine. I know Kushida did beat Chris Bay, but they did lose at No Surrender. So I would take out those two, Rich Swann and Time Machine, and put them with Giselle Shaw and Jonathan Gresham.
I would take out Rich Swann and let's see who else doesn't match up here. I think that's it. Yeah, no. Rich Swann and crap. It doesn't make sense. I don't think Joe Hendry actually didn't make my top 10. That's what it was. So I don't believe in Joe Hendry. I lied.
Get out. Not right now. Get out.
Well, I think after a pay-per-view, that's the one time where, like, if you're having trouble with you're making your rankings, you could always say, it's easy to put the people who got wins. So if you look at this week and you took out Rich Swann and the design, and you put Giselle, and you put Jonathan Gresham, that would mean the only person that would be on there would be Trey Miguel, who didn't get a win. He didn't get a loss. He just got beat up. But he is a champion. So I would be fine with taking out the two people that you just named. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I don't think those are, even though Rich did lose, I feel bad taking him out, but I would be totally fine with if they weren't on here for those people that you named.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing with me, Burt. And Lucha, I was just kidding.
I had to accept my punishment. All right. I do apologize.
It's okay. Any last comments on any other rankings or on Giselle Shaw and Jonathan Gresham not being on this week's Power Rankings?
Let's see if your rant was able to get some eyes on them. So maybe the committee looks at them in a different light going into next week or maybe even the week after to see if they can get some momentum and get on these.
I think not only that, but it's just like they know what the fans want to see. And after seeing Giselle get a win with Savannah's help, they know that the fans want to hear why. So they're going to be on the show. So it's easy to say, there's a safe bet to say they're going to be on the rankings next week. You know what I mean? So I could see Giselle being on the show next week, and Gresham did win. And so usually when someone wins and they get a big win, they're on the show as well to talk about it. So them being on the top 10, I think is easy to see for next week.
I do agree, Bert. I do agree. All right. So I guess we covered everything and we've talked about everything. So Burt, you got any closing remarks?
Just support all the shows on the network. Obviously, the big show.
Well,
Where's the big show?
it's
The
a
big bad show tonight.
tonight.
And then, of course, TBN with Craig and Nixon. Always check them out. And then, us. Join us. Stop by.
Join us. Join
All right, you
us.
guys. Well, I have to
Join
say,
us.
okay.
Join us. Join us.
Scary.
That was kind of scary. I hope you didn't scare people with that.
If the Burt signal doesn't work, we just throw in Hypno Lucha and we just
Hypno Lucha.
Hypno Lucha.
Yeah, that's
All right. All right, and then you guys, thank you guys all so much for watching and for the continuous support. Feel free to check out some of our other content like LL TNAIW, which will be making its return soon. Our friends over across the pond at Talking Bloody Nonsense with the MIC Craig and Peter Nixon. And of course, the main show, which is live every Sunday on Twitch at 8 Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And of course, our show every Tuesday. So make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever TNAIW not only uploads this video, as well as any other content that they may upload. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.